how could Shakur beat him if he can't hurt him? That would be my question.
Listen, you don't have to hurt him, you just have to outscore him. You know, Shakur takes a good shot, though. You know, he's a specialist. That's why some fights that he doesn't look good in, because he's so superior. And it's boring watching sometimes. But he's a specialist. He knows what he's doing. He's hard to beat.
I think it's going to be a great fight. I think that I keep mentioning Mayweather versus Castillo. If you haven't seen that fight, watch that fight. Castillo beat Mayweather with the same style.
So, my road, you know that. You know that. So I'm the best fighter in boxing.
Two skillful fighters, two talented fighters, you know, two fighters that are at a high skill level that will compete in the sweet science.
How you beat Teofimo Lopez? Cause there's a blueprint out to beat Teofimo Lopez. Ain't no blueprint out to beat no damn Shakur Stevenson. Lopez don't know how to beat Shakur Stevenson. Ain't no damn blueprint. But I tell you who got a blueprint on how to beat Lopez. That's Shakur Stevenson. He know how to beat Lopez. Yeah, Lopez don't know how to beat him. Hell no.
Boxing legends share bold predictions while breaking down the Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez matchup. They focus on how quick movement matches up against raw strength. The discussion also looks at smart defense versus non-stop pressure. Attention is placed on who stays sharp and thinks clearly when the fight heats up.
It's a Teofimo Lopez.
That's a good damn fight too. See, that fight is skill for skill, as good as this fight. Yeah. But they just haven't been around long enough to prove themselves yet. But skill for skill, as far as equality, to me, Bud and Canelo are equal because when they're in their career. Because how accomplished they are. These two guys are also equal when they're in their career. Because they're accomplished, but not as accomplished as these two. But they're still equal.
Sure.
Accomplished. You understand me? So those are two good damn fights and one boxing.
Boxing legends and analysts remain split yet deeply invested in the Stevenson versus Lopez matchup.
Ultimate skill fighter versus a boxer who's twitchy. And twitchy sometimes beats out skills. Sometimes that's the side that can really beat a straight up boxer to me. Somebody who's twitchy. You know, because they don't fight, you know, as normally as most boxers fight. They give angles, body movements, bouncing around like a Lomachenko would done, even a Crawford does, you know what I'm saying, moves different angles and so forth. That's why they can beat a lot of boxers. A lot of people are rolling with Shakur, and I understand because he's dope. But I don't know who's going to show up what day. What Shakur showing up, or what Tio's going to show up. You get what I'm saying?
Nah, you know, we gonna always Shakur gonna always be Shakur. The offense that we saw from him in his last fight was just, he knew what he had in front of him.
Does go back and forth. I'm gonna tell you why. Because Tio, what I do is I remove all the negative about what we know about Tio. I remove all of that and then I look at the fighter. That still is a good fighter. You know what I mean? Strong, fast, you know what I mean? Explosive, unpredictable. And he can hurt you. And every time he's had to step up, he really did step up. You know what I mean? But besides the Cambodia fight. But he stepped up. So I think Shakur. Yeah, my first mind told me Shakur. And I thought about it, yeah. I'm picking Shakur by decision. But because this is fighting, anything can happen. You can't count Tio out.
Former welterweight champion Shawn Porter recently leaned toward Lopez as the favorite. He pointed to Lopez's ability to adjust and fight in many ways, especially at 140 pounds. Porter feels Lopez now has more paths to winning the fight. This is due to his flexibility against Stevenson's controlled and technical approach.
Pierre said, you know, the twitchiness, that athleticism that Teofimo has is what gives someone like Shakur problems, because it throws off his timing.
Yep.
Shakur is flat out amazing. I've watched this kid. He can find anybody's time.
Right.
So if you give him the space with just lot of feints and stuff like that, he gonna still pick it up and he's still gonna find it. I got a feeling this thing is not gonna be boring and dry.
Legendary fighter Tim Bradley confidently stated that Stevenson is too skilled and intelligent for Teofimo Lopez. Bradley said Shakur has a clear plan to win and believes Lopez does not know how to defeat Stevenson.
Already know the damn rest. Can somebody please tell me how you beat Shakur Stevenson? Please, somebody tell me, how the hell do you beat some damn Shakur Stevenson? I'll wait. How you beat Shakur Stevenson? Can somebody please, on the contrary, please tell me, how the hell do you beat Teofimo Lopez? How you beat Teofimo Lopez? Because there's a blueprint out to beat Teofimo Lopez. Ain't no blueprint out to beat no damn Shakur Stevenson. Lopez don't know how to beat Shakur Stevenson. Ain't no damn blueprint. But I tell you who got a blueprint on how to beat Lopez. That's Shakur Stevenson. He know how to beat Lopez. Yeah, Lopez don't know how to beat him. Hell no.
Teddy Atlas praised Shakur work against William Zapita. He highlighted how Stevenson mixed pressure with his usual movement. Atlas noted that Shakur was strong both up close and at distance. He also said Stevenson controlled the ring well and stayed sharp with his counters.
Shakur showed aggression in his last fight against Zapata, being elusive while being aggressive, walking them down, fighting on the inside, boxing well, still being able to counter, still being able to control space, but also be able to go into tight quarters and not be afraid to show that he's good on the inside too, that he can make you miss and make you pay outside and inside. Shakur showed that. That was great. That was great, and people applaud him. I applaud him. We were sitting there, ringside. I was sitting there actually with your sister, ringside, watching that fight. And it was a terrific performance. Shakur showing that dimension, showing that attitude, showing that competitiveness, showing that dog like people like to show or like to talk about, and they wanted to see in Shakur.
He pointed out that this upcoming fight brings together two highly athletic and gifted boxers with very different strengths, which makes the matchup exciting to watch. Aoya believes the Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson bout will play out like a smart tactical battle where discipline wins over raw explosiveness. While Teofimo offers speed power and unpredictable athleticism, Aoya feels those tools only matter if Teo can keep steady pressure for all 12 rounds.
It's a fight that I'm interested in due to the fact that, depending on who dominates their portion of the fight, that's how that fight will go. I don't think it's going to end in a knockout. I think it's going to go 12 rounds for sure. But it depends on how the first 6 rounds goes, you know what I mean? Because I don't think that Shakur is going to come out and try to fight or take the fight to Teo in the first 6 rounds at all. So if he's fighting off the back foot, if Teo can make it so that he's convincingly, or he's convinced at least Shakur that he may have won 4 of the first 6 rounds, if it's 4-2 in Shakur's mind going into the second half of the fight, or if I'm looking at him stealing those first 6 rounds, then it's an interesting fight going into the tail end, because Teo, to me, is a front runner, right? I want to see if he can carry his energy and his explosiveness late in the fight and not wear down. And then when Shakur starts to open up, can you steal some of those championship rounds from him and make it like a close?
Aoya expects Shakur to frustrate Teofimo by making him miss and answering with clean counters and sharp combinations. Teofimo may find some success early in the fight if he comes out fast and confident. As the rounds move forward, Aoya believes Shakur's steady approach will begin to control the pace. He predicts Shakur ring awareness and consistency will decide the fight in the later rounds.
If Teo comes out and does what he usually does, which is try to swarm Shakur early and keep Shakur on the defensive early, then he can try to steal a lot of those early rounds. And if he does that, then Shakur has to fight in the tail end of that fight. Now to make it real interesting. If if I'm looking at the first 3 rounds, first 4 rounds, and Tio looks like he's losing those rounds convincingly, then it's an easy night for Shakur, unanimous decision in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because I don't think Tio is going to bring anything late in the game, you know what I mean, to this fight. I think if he is who he's always been, you know, he's going to get gassed after like the 7th round and then take some rounds off. And when he does that, Shakur will open up and start to try to pick him apart, pot shot him, and do things like that. But this is the perfect fight, narrative-wise, for Shakur.
Greg Hackett recognizes Teofimo Lopez as a real danger because of his natural physical tools and strong fighting instincts. Lopez is quick, powerful, explosive, and unpredictable, which means he can change a fight at any moment or with one clean punch. Even when his technique is not perfect, his strength and athletic ability still create risk during exchanges. Hackett notes that Lopez has shown he can rise to the moment against elite opponents and has displayed flashes of greatness when facing top-level competition. Since boxing is always unpredictable, Hackett believes Lopez should never be written off completely. Still, while respecting Lopez's threat, Hackett ultimately sides with Shakur Stevenson because of Shakur's steady consistency, strong discipline, and proven ability to control fights from start to finish.
Thoughts sometimes that cross my brain, like, damn, what if Tio catch him like real good though? You know what I mean? And hurt him. Or what if he just out hustling? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a lot of shit that crossed my mind, but I still like Shakur for the dub. I like Shakur for the dub because he knows how to win. Like, he knows how to win. You know what I'm saying? And he's always prepared to win. So, and I think Shakur respects Tio to the point where he gonna train like he's never trained before. Because this is a great fight for him. This is probably the best fight of his career up to date. Even though he's been in some great fights, this is probably the best opponent. You know what I mean? And Tio, same for Tio. So when it's like that, when you put Magic and Bird together, it happens. You know what I'm saying? And this is the kind of situation it is. Magic Johnson was nice, but Larry Bird was nice. You put them together, you get a nice game. You know what I mean? So you put these two together, you get a nice.
Gary Antuanne Russell, an elite junior welterweight contender, calls the fight a true 50-50 matchup. He says both Teofimo and Shakur compete with top-level confidence and skill. Russell explains that at this stage of boxing, confidence is not optional and is required to succeed. Neither fighter is scared, and that mental balance is what keeps the fight so even. Gary also explains how Teofimo can win. He points to Tio's natural strength, high-level athleticism, and strong boxing IQ. These qualities give Teofimo a physical and explosive edge, especially if he applies pressure the right way. When Tio stays disciplined, his power and athletic ability can swing the fight in his favor.
Out in the ring.
It's 50-50. You know, in order for you to participate in this sport, you got to have a high level of confidence. I feel like both of them has a high level of confidence. Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, but styles make fights. Naturally, I think Teofimo Lopez is stronger than Shakur. Naturally, I think he has more athleticism than Shakur. And he got a good IQ on the sport itself. But Shakur, I feel like he's a more smarter fighter. He's a more technical fighter. You know, I'm not saying that he's a square or he's just a textbook fighter, but he's seasoned, he's poised. I feel like mentally he's more mature. Like, he don't go outside of the boundaries on taking risks. So a lot of times you will see him fight somebody that could be stiff competition, and it'll wind up being a born fight to a degree. You know, that's why everybody was criticizing him for, oh, he's a born fighter. He's a careful fighter.
Gary emphasizes that Teofimo Lopez's performance on fight night will determine the outcome. He says Tio is not a one-dimensional fighter and can show different sides of himself in the ring. When Teofimo is focused, disciplined, and fully engaged, he becomes extremely dangerous. Gary highlights the Lomachenko fight as a clear example. In that bout, Tio controlled distance, stayed patient, followed his plan, and used his athleticism and power wisely. If that version of Teofimo appears against Shakur, Gary believes he can win because he combines strength with calmness and sharp boxing intelligence. This is not hype, but a technical endorsement of Tio's proven skill at the highest level.
He's going to be a careful fighter. Now, just because he's a careful fighter doesn't mean that he isn't punctual with how he do things. I think Shakur, he got a lot of this arsenal that he can use to make him be victorious, as well as Teofimo Lopez. You know what I mean? So it's a 50-50 fight, and it depends on what fighters show up the night of the fight.
Right.
You know, but if I had to give you my whole honest truth, if Teofimo Lopez show up and is ready to fight just like how he fought Loma Chico, he'll win.
Oscar Valdez has spoken about how Shakur Stevenson's style frustrates and controls his opponents. Valdez said Stevenson uses a highly technical and patient plan, managing distance, tempo, and rhythm so well that fighters struggle to use their own style or adjust effectively. He noted that Stevenson sticks to his strategy, making it difficult for opponents to land clean shots or break his flow. Valdez compared facing him to a chess match rather than a normal fight. He advised that fighters must remain patient and avoid frustration because Stevenson's careful method forces them to fight his fight instead of their own.
Shakur Stevenson, like I said, it's easier said than done with a fighter like that because, it's not like he's too back from you. He's just right there in your face, and once you throw, he just rocks back a little bit and touches you. Then it becomes very frustrating. Then when you start loading up, then he does it again. He starts loading up in his shots, but just outboxing you. So I would just say it's like I said, it's a tough one for me to pick who will come out victorious. That's why I go with the 50-50 fight.
What was like the most frustrating thing? You mentioned, Teo has to stay focused. He can't get frustrated. I remember watching your fight against Shakur there live. It seemed that you were getting a little bit frustrating. Like, what was the most frustrating thing you think happened in that, like, Teo, I guess, can expect?
Well, I mean, me and Teofimo are completely different fighters. Teofimo is more of a fighter. Like, he's a ring generalship. He's in there thinking. He's calm. He's having fun.
Valdez has noted that Lopez has the tools and tactics to challenge Stevenson, especially if Teo pushes Shakur out of his comfort zone and avoids Stevenson's preferred rhythm. He discussed how Lopez could take advantage of certain aspects of Stevenson's game plan to gain the upper hand. While Valdez has not named a clear winner in interviews, his analysis makes it clear that he sees Teofimo as having a real chance, particularly if Teo stays focused on his strengths and keeps Shakur unsettled.
Shakur, he's not going to change because Marco said it, because I said it, or anybody says it. He's going to fight his own fight to just win. Doesn't care how it is, but he just wants to win. So I think the important one here is going to not to be Teofimo Lopez, what his game plan is or what his tactic is going to be. But I think if someone could pull it off, I would say it's Teofimo.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you count out Teo, he gets the win. Like with Loma, everyone counted him out. He got the win. Josh Taylor,
he's been proving it. And then sometimes he'll have a not good of a performance in other people's eyes.
Inconsistent.
And people will say, all right. And it's like Manny Robles would tell me, my trainer, he would say, you're only as good as your last fight. So if people would see Teofimo Lopez's last performance, they would be like, all right. If it wasn't a good one, they'd say, all right, it's going to be a walk in the park for Shakur. But not really, because every time the competition goes up, Teofimo goes with that same level.
In a recent interview with DAZN, Shakur Stevenson spoke about the supposed tension between him and Teofimo Lopez, saying there was never any real conflict. He explained that the situation began when Teofimo attended one of his fights against Edwin dos Santos. Shakur admitted he assessed Teofimo in the locker room, but stressed it was only because he had always imagined facing him in the future. He described it as a natural competitive reaction rather than disrespect. Shakur said Teofimo may have misunderstood the moment, but there was never any actual beef or ongoing issues between them. He also praised Teofimo as a talented and consistently great fighter, emphasizing that any perceived tension was simply part of the competitive mindset of two elite athletes preparing for a future matchup.
Explain the history of Teofimo versus Shakur beef.
I don't even think we ever really had beef at the end of the day. I know we got into it one time because he came to my fight, and I guess he was there to support me when I fought Edwin dos Santos. And I kind of sized him up when he came in the locker room. But I only sized him up because I always pictured us being a fight in the future. But I guess he felt some type of way about me sizing him up. But I told him right before that me and him was going to fight in the future. So I didn't really understand what was the issue with me sizing him up during that time. But it never was a beef. We never had real beef. It never was no real static or issues. T always been a great fighter, always been a great fighter.
Bruce Carrington highlights Teofimo Lopez's biggest weakness against Shakur Stevenson, focusing on his difficulty with movement. While Teofimo is athletic, explosive, and aggressive, Carrington notes that Shakur footwork and patience could frustrate him. Previous fights against elusive opponents like Sandor Martin and Jimmy Orty showed that when Teofimo cannot plant his feet, he struggles to execute effectively. Carrington stresses that Shakur's defensive skills and ability to control distance make him very hard to hit consistently. Lopez's challenge will be staying composed and adjusting to a constantly moving opponent. While the fight remains exciting, Carrington predicts it will be a difficult night for Teofimo, who must figure out how to deal with Stevenson's elusive style to succeed.
Like Teo is going to bring the fight. He's very athletic. He has a lot of explosiveness, and but I do feel like when it comes to Shakur, bro, his movement may frustrate him. The only thing that worries me when it comes to Teofimo is his frustration. Like, is he going to be able to work well with a mover? We've seen, difficulties that he had with Sandor Martin. We've seen the difficulties that he had with Jimmy Ortiz, guys that's been moving around and not staying still. Like, if you keep Teo moving around and he can't plant his feet, what can he do? We're going to have to find that out on, January 31st. And I think Shakur, he's probably one of the best guys to, move his feet, be on defense, being hella patient and frustrating a fighter, bro. Like, we got to see what his mentality is going to be like come January 31st.
Do you think that his experience on the biggest of stages, his two biggest wins, he was an underdog. And both guys, ironically enough, were southpaws like Shakur. That play any factor to you, man?
Nah, styles is different. The styles are totally different. Lomachenko don't fight like Shakur. Josh Taylor don't fight like Shakur. I don't see, just because southpaw, that same thing will happen. I feel like certain techniques could be used to fight Shakur, yeah. But in terms of like that approach of the fight, nah. Like, Shakur fights totally different. You gotta be able to do some out of pocket stuff with Shakur. You gotta throw while he's throwing. That's probably some of the only times that he's able to get hit. Only time he's open.
Who do you think will come out on top? Shakur Stevenson or Teofimo Lopez? Share your predictions and explain your reasoning in the comments below.